Hello Internet, my name is Zephyr, and in this video I'm going to be discussing something that's been plaguing not just Transformers, but the entire toy aisle for quite some time now. Now please bear with me as I have a sore throat when making this, so if my voice sounds raspier than usual, that's why. I want you to take a good look at this photo and tell me what's wrong. Tell me what you see in this photo that is missing. If you notice that there is a severe lack of deluxe figures, then you would be correct. If you also notice that the shelf is overflowing with clutter and stuff that no one buys, then give yourself a pat on the back because that is the answer that I was looking for. That is because Hasbro insists on cluttering up store shelves with these crappy cheap gimmick toys that nobody buys and that they claim are made for little kids. Now, from a business standpoint, it is completely understandable why they would want to make these cheaper toys, especially if they are marketed towards kids, because they're meant to be cheap. They're meant to serve as an entry point for younger fans to get into Transformers. And that is completely fine if it wasn't for the fact that they have so many gimmick lines. And that's not mentioning that previous lines that were once thought dead, like Hero Mashers and Bot Shots, could come back like it's nothing. And you see, the problem with creating so many of these gimmick toy lines is that you now have to fight for shelf space with your already established toy line just so you can push them out. And unfortunately, it leads to a lot of toy store shelves looking like this because nobody really buys the gimmick toys and they just create a lot of clutter because they take up most of the room on the shelves. Now, I'm not saying just get rid of all of the gimmick toy lines because a lot of the gimmick toys can actually be pretty fun and pretty interesting, but when they take up 90% of shelf space, it does become a problem. And unfortunately, it is an issue that plagues even the real-life Transformer store. Now, having an official Transformer store that you can go to in the real world is so cool, and I do hope they open more locations, hopefully here in the US. But looking through this video, you could see that they have a whole lot of Transformers 1 stuff, but it's mostly just shirts and gimmick toys with statues, these self-transforming Robosin figures, the YOLO Park statues, and blockies, and that's really about it. Now, I'll cut this place some slack because they did literally just open not too long ago, so maybe they will stock more. We'll just have to wait and see. But you would think that an official Transformer store would be stocked to the brim with all of the latest Transformers that just hit the market. Having entire display walls filled with the current line. For example, Transformers Legacy United or Earthspark. And while they do have a section for Earthspark, they have practically nothing when it comes to the more collector-oriented lines. As you can see for the Earthspark section, they don't even have any of the proper deluxes for the Earthspark line. The whole store just looks to be filled with Transformers-themed crap. And while yeah, it does make sense for them to sell stuff like t-shirts so that way you could buy them as souvenirs and have proof that you went to the official Transformers store, again, you would think the official Transformer store would have a lot more of the toys considering that that is the whole point of opening a Transformer store in the first place. For example, this is what most toy aisles look like nowadays versus what toy aisles used to look like back then. And as you can see, even back then they had gimmick toys, but they took up far less space than they do now, and they even had their own dedicated sections to where they would go, allowing the main line to have much more space to be properly displayed. And as much as it pains me to say it, I don't think there will ever be a time where toy store shelves go back to looking like this. So now the question is, why can't we go back to having toy store shelves look like this, filled with the mainline toys that people usually buy, rather than being filled with the crap that just shelf forms like crazy? The annoying truth is that it's complicated. You see, it's not just a Hasbro problem, but it's also a problem with retailers because they also have limited space, and some retailers just don't want to keep buying new waves of figures if the stuff that they already have on store shelves isn't selling in the first place. And I do have a little bit of a theory as to why Hasbro is so insistent on making these one-step changers and other gimmicky toy lines. I personally believe the reason why they keep making these gimmick toy lines is to put more product on the shelf to make the store shelves look more full, giving the toy aisle the appearance that it is well stocked, when in reality, all of that stuff has been shelf warming for months on end, possibly even years. Reason number 2 as to why they're so insistent on making these these gimmick toys is because the mainline toys do take a lot of time to design and put out. So in the meantime, having these newer gimmick toys on store shelves builds a little bit of hype and gets people excited for the new toys that are coming out. So how do we fix this problem? How do we unclutter the store shelves and get them to look like this again? It's clear that Hasbro is always going to want to make gimmick toys, especially if it is true that the point for gimmick toys is for them to be geared more towards kids, being cheaper and easier to transform. And they already have plenty of perfect gimmick toy lines. The other ones you could just scrap. So here's my ideal list of gimmick lines that should stay, and the other ones could get scrapped. The first gimmick toy line, which really isn't even a gimmick toy line that I would keep, is the Warrior class, because they're basically just deluxes, but a little bit smaller and cheaper. If you asked me to only keep one gimmick toy line, it would definitely be the Warrior class, as it feels like the perfect starting point for any new fan to get into Transformers. They're cheap, they have simplistic transformations, while still having pretty good amounts of articulation. This is the Thrash Warrior class figure from Transformers Earthspark, and comparing them with this proper deluxe class figure, they look nearly identical, with the proper deluxe of course having better paint. I could see this helping more veteran Transformers collectors, as with the Warrior class looking so close to the deluxe, you could just pick up the Warrior class in case the deluxe is hard to find. But recognizing that something like this would be a bit too complex and a bit too dangerous for a child under the age of 5 years old, of course, I would be keeping the one-step changers, as even though they're more geared towards kids, and they're really meant for that age group anyway, one-step changers can be enjoyed by anyone of any age, serving as a perfect desk toy for whenever you get bored or you just want something to fiddle with. But that's really about it. One-step changers, just so you can have something on store shelves that is perfect for toddlers and children under the age of 5, and Warrior class, just so you can have a cheaper alternative to the more collector-orientated mainline figures. This would allow for the perfect balance of variety, having something for every age group, but also freeing up much more space for the actual main line. And the best part is, this would also give retailers more incentive to actually restock their toys when they sell out, leading to a lot less shelf warming. I am now going to play a clip from fellow YouTuber Dennis Bolton, aka GotBot, which perfectly encapsulates everything that's wrong with these gimmick toy lines, and why they just don't work.
Because we all know that that could easily fill up a billion spots. All that stuff does, at least in my neck of the woods, I can't speak for where you live, is clog up peg space, take up space. None of it sells. It's all junk. I don't know why they keep doing this stuff. And before anybody says, oh, it's for kids, stop insulting kids' intelligence. They're kids. They're not stupid. They know the difference between good and junk. Give them things that they can engage with, that they can get creative with.
I could not have said it better myself. Kids do not want junk. They do not want one-step changers and other gimmicky toys. They want the same figures that we, the average collector, buy, because they know that these are the good figures. Do not insult children's intelligence, because you'd be seriously surprised by how smart some kids can be. If you think all kids are dumb and they're just obsessed with brain rot like Skibbity Toilet, then it just shows that you are out of touch. And unfortunately, a lot of these corporations are. And at the end of the day, that is exactly what Hasbro is. They are a corporation that makes toys. But closing off the video, it is now time for you guys to let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and like the video if you enjoyed. But most importantly, subscribe, as it greatly helps out. I am almost at 1,000 subscribers, and I am really hoping to get there by the end of the year. And as always, thank you for watching.